We're all living in a world that is just drowning in data. Every single click, every swipe, every GPS ping, it all adds to this digital ocean that gets deeper by the second. But what is this big data that everyone talks about? And more importantly, how do we turn this overwhelming flood into something we can actually use? Well, let's pull back the curtain and figure out how we can turn all this digital noise into some real-world value.
To really get a sense of the scale we're talking about, let's just start with a number. A really, really big one. Every single day, humanity generates about 2.5 quintillion bytes of data. That is a 2.5 with 18 zeros after it. It's an amount so ridiculously vast, it's almost impossible to even wrap your head around.
But it's not just about the sheer amount of data. It's the incredible speed at which it's being created. Think about this for a second. Nearly all of the data that has ever existed in human history was generated in just the last couple of years. We are not on some gentle slope here. It's more like we're strapped to a rocket.
And this isn't all happening in some far-off, mysterious server farm. Nope. It's happening right here, with us, with you. Every time your phone pings a cell tower, or you post a photo, or you buy something online, you're a contributor. We are all, collectively, building this massive digital mountain, piece by piece, every single day.
So that brings us to the most important question of all, doesn't it? We've got this unprecedented mountain of information. What in the world are we supposed to do with it? How do we even begin to make sense of it all? How do you find the important signal in all of that noise?
To answer that, we first need to get on the same page with a clear definition. Let's break down what actually makes big data different from just, well, having a lot of data.
Okay, so here's the key. Big data isn't just about being big. It's about being too fast and way too messy for our old tools to handle. Think of it like trying to drink from a fire hose that's spraying out 1,000 different kinds of liquid all at once. Your old coffee mug just isn't going to cut it.
So, you might be thinking, if we can't handle it with the old tools, why even bother? Great question. The reason we bother is because buried within all of that chaos is immense, incredible value, just waiting to be discovered. Probably the best way to think about this is to see data as a kind of natural resource. Raw data, on its own, is a bit like crude oil. It's not very useful as is. The real value is locked deep inside. You have to find it, you have to extract it, and then you have to refine it before it can actually power anything.
And this refined data, it creates value in a couple of different ways. First, there's the really obvious stuff. We call that functional value. That's like using data to optimize your shipping routes to save millions in fuel costs. But then there's symbolic value. That's more indirect. It's when investors and customers see you as a smart, cutting-edge company which boosts confidence and your brand all at once.
Okay, so how do we actually do this mining and refining? Well, it happens through a process called analytics, and you can kind of think of it as a ladder. With each step you climb, you get a deeper and deeper level of insight. It's really like climbing this ladder of insight, right? You start at the very bottom, just asking a simple question, what happened? Once you know that, you can climb to the next rung and ask, okay, but why did that happen? From there, you can start looking ahead. All right, so what's likely to happen next? And at the very top, you get to ask the most powerful question of all. So what should we do about it?
The first step up is descriptive analytics. This is basically your rearview mirror. Think of a simple monthly sales report. It just tells you the facts of what already happened. We sold 1,000 units last month. Simple as that.
But just knowing what happened isn't really enough, is it? So the next step up the ladder, diagnostic analytics, asks why. You don't just look at the sales report. You dig in to find out why sales were down. Was it a competitor's big promotion? Was it a holiday? Maybe a bug on our website?
Okay, now we start looking forward. This is where it gets really interesting. Predictive analytics takes everything we've learned from the past and tries to forecast the future. So, based on last year's trends and that recent sales dip, it might predict that we're probably only going to sell about 800 units next month.
And finally, we get to the very top of the ladder, prescriptive analytics. This is the real goal. It doesn't just predict a problem, it actually suggests a solution. It might say something like, hey, to avoid selling only 800 units, we recommend a 10% discount, which our models show should boost sales up to 1,100 units. It turns an insight into a concrete action plan.
Now, to do any of this analysis, you've got to understand the raw material you're working with. And fundamentally, big data comes in two totally different flavors.
And here's the part that really changes everything. The vast, vast majority of all this data, we're talking about 80% of it, is what we call unstructured. It's not neat little rows and columns. And what this means is that the traditional tools most companies have are only equipped to handle a tiny fraction of the modern data landscape.
The difference is actually pretty simple to wrap your head around. On one side, you have structured data. That's anything that fits neatly into a spreadsheet, like a list of banking transactions. It's clean, it's organized, it's easy to analyze. And on the other side is, well, pretty much everything else. The text from a million customer reviews, photos, videos, all those social media posts. It's chaotic, it's messy, and analyzing it requires a completely different approach.
So with all this complexity and all this messy data, how do organizations actually tackle a big data project? It's not a free-for-all. There's a widely accepted standardized process that basically provides a roadmap.
And that roadmap is a process called CRISP-DM. It's a 6-step loop that always starts with the single most important thing: understanding the business goal. What are we actually trying to achieve? And the key thing to remember here is that it's a loop. It is not a one-and-done kind of thing. It's all about constantly testing, learning, and refining to get better and better results over time.
Okay, but let's be real for a second. Going through that whole process with quintillions of bytes of data, it is completely impossible for humans to do manually. And this is where modern technology comes in, specifically artificial intelligence.
And the engines that make this all possible are AI and machine learning. You can think of AI as the big idea, building machines that can learn and solve problems. But machine learning, that's where the magic really happens. It's a type of AI where you don't program it with rules. You just feed it enormous amounts of data, and it literally teaches itself to find the patterns. It is the only way to sift through quintillions of bytes to find that one golden insight.
But all this power brings us to one final crucial question to consider. These systems, they are incredibly good at finding patterns and correlations in data. But as we all know, correlation isn't causation. And as we rely more and more on these powerful tools to make huge decisions, we have to ask ourselves, what are the consequences when our incredibly smart machines find a perfect pattern but completely misunderstand the reason why?